Bonus!
Piper Leo! Crew, what the hell is going on? Oh, look out! Piper, now!
Here are these words, here are the rhyme.
Crew, Piper, page, book!
Hear now the words of the witches.
Keep it going, Phoebe.
Hear now the words of the witches. The words of the witches. The words of the witches.
Crew, Piper, page,
Hear now the words of the
keep
witches.
it going, Phoebe. Keep it going.
Hear now the words of the
Keep chanting.
words of the witches. Hear now the words of the witches.
Crew, Piper, page, book! Keep chanting.
Hear now the words of the witches.
Keep chanting.
What ass backward spell did you guys cast?
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches.
Hear now the words of the witches.
Piper, page, book!
The words of the witches. The words of the witches. Hear now the words of the witches.
Keep chanting.
Hear now the words of the witches.
Well, this is a special bonus episode of Words of the Witches, and I'm talking to you, Nicholas. Hello.
Hello, everyone who's listening.
Yeah, this is going to be a very off-the-cuff kind of episode. We're just going to chat and enjoy the charmed life and the charmed love. We're going to tell some stories, and yeah, so...
I love it. I'm ready. It's funny. I've never really gotten to share my charm story with, I've shared, with friends over the years, but never another die-hard, charm
Yeah.
or like a charmed fan base podcast, whatever. So this is the first time for me to actually get to share this in such detail with people who are actually going to really, really want to hear this.
Right. People are just like, oh, that's cool. Your normal friends, that's cool. But this is going to be like, what? Tell me everything.
Right,
So-
exactly. Just a quick little side note outside of the podcast. I may have to respond to a call or something because I'm trying to get my friend tickets for a show and my boss is not doing it. So
Okay.
I'm kind of multitasking.
That's
but
fine.
but yeah, I am all yours, and I am so super excited to talk and answer all the questions that I hopefully have the answers to. But you can ask me anything you want. I've also put together a small a Dropbox folder with a couple photos in there for you to you
Okay.
you share whatever you want. And if you want any more specific ones, I can always go back and see what else I have from what I snapped back when I was 15. So
Okay. Yes. So what you're referring to is, spell worders. I call my listeners spell worders because,
ooh, I
know.
like it.
But Nicholas actually visited the Charmed set back in 2005.
That is correct.
Yes. So how did that come about? How did that first get started?
Yeah, it was a very weird roundabout sort of way because, back in the day, there was no Facebook, no Instagram, no social media whatsoever, back in 2003, 2004, 2005, we barely really had the internet, it was there, but it wasn't as widely spread as it is today. And back then so it all started in 2003 when I came across the address of the original house here in LA. And I was like, is this real? Is the house not in San Francisco? can I just go look at it? What? So my parents now always, backtrack, I'm from Europe. I'm half French, half German. So, as a little, European kid growing up in, between France and Germany and being a fan of the show, it's it's so far away, but it's in America. And every year my parents usually do a trip to the US. And that year we said, well, if we're going to want to try and see if the Charmed House really is there, let's make a trip to LA. So we made a trip to LA in October 2003, and I was so freaking nervous. I was like, is it gonna be there? What's it gonna be like? I already knew that they were shooting on a soundstage and not in the actual house, so that whole aspect of it did not shock me in any way. I was mentally prepared for that, but just seeing it with my own eyes at age 13 in the heyday of the show was surreal for me.
Insane.
It was just crazy. And so, of course, we pulled up to the house. It was in October 2003. And I even have probably some on an old mini DV tape. I have my video camera and I was documenting the whole thing. And I was it was an out of body experience. And we pull up, we walk up and down the street. I take photos of the house. I did not want to get on the steps or anywhere higher because I was always don't trespass on people's properties. You walk from a distance, appreciate, and you walk away. And so that's all I did with my parents. We took some photos, across the street even sometimes, and then got back in the loaner vehicle and drove away. And then I said, can we just drive by it just one more time? And at that moment, as we drive back around, the then tenant, because they have tenants residing in the house, was going down the steps to get the morning newspaper. So my mom, ballsy as she is, jumps out of the car with her very thick French accent and basically asked the woman if we could go up the stairs and take a photo in front, like really in front of the doors, in front of the house. She was so touched by us actually taking the time to ask for permission that she straight up invited us in. And that's when I was like, what the hell is happening? I just could not believe it. I was just happy seeing from the outside. I was like, bucket list time. So they invite us in, and it was just, I was frozen in place. Like I could not really move. I was just like, sensory overload. And it was the woman living with her daughter, who at that time was like about, I guess, like in her early 30s. And super, super sweet, mother and daughter. And her daughter fell in love with me. She was like, "Oh, you're so sweet. Your friend, she loves Charm. I love Charm." And she was kind of in the industry. She was a background actor and worked at a production company. So she had a lot of know-how about the industry. And I think at that point, they'd been living in the house for about a year or a year and a half. So they had gotten to meet the cast and the crew, coming back and forth. Because I think they moved when season 5 had started shooting. So they had been to the house a few times since they had moved into the house.
Sure. Okay. Cool. So I was always wondering how they picked people to like rent out. Like, how do they choose these? So it must have been people that were already in the industry. They were just
correct. Or who are aware of the responsibility, because as you well know, fans go by this house on a daily basis.
Yes.
And it's not a burden, but it's a responsibility that you have as a tenant of this kind of a house, that you got to put up with the fans, and sometimes you got to meet some of them if you happen to go out to get groceries and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it definitely is a full-time job. But so she was super sweet, and then the first step of the charmed life, as I like to call it, was she invited me back for a play date the next day. And granted, in the moment, I was like, this is insane. My parents, I was like, now that I think back on it as like a grown-up, I'm like, my parents left me with a complete stranger for a full day. Their 13-year-old son with a complete stranger for a full day at the Charmed house. And they did. So the next day they dropped me off at the house. And all she did pretty much was walk me through every spot around the neighborhood where they had shot a scene of Charmed. And I had my little video camera, and I recorded everything.
Oh my gosh.
I stepped in front of where they had stepped. And yeah, I was like a full-on like film geek reenacting all the scenes from Charmed. And then we went into the house. We watched an actual episode of Charmed in the house.
Oh, do you remember which one?
Yes. So I was in France, right? So they hadn't aired season 6 yet, and season 6 had just started airing in the US. So she showed me the pilot, or the first episode of season 6, which was the
Valhalla of the Dolls. Yeah. Okay.
So I watched that, or the first half, not both episodes, just the first half. And I was like, I'm watching this in her bedroom upstairs in the Charmed house.
That's so crazy.
Again, 13-year-old, right?
Right. I mean, I just think about how I was back then. I mean, I'm pretty bad now, but little me, obsessed with Charmed, would have fainted. I mean, I keep thinking, like, if small me knew what future me would end up doing later with all this stuff, they probably would have like passed out, like dead.
and I think for me, like in the moment, because I was like that young, part of me is like, I wish I could have been more mature to really, take it in more. But part of me is like, it's such like a core childhood memory in a way that it almost feels like, I mean, and I'm sure it's the same for you. Like these women, this show has been part of my life for as long as I can remember. They feel like family to me. And this is no secret, but because my friends know this, whenever I have like a down day, or like I feel kind of, like down, I just drive by the house and walk up and down the street and I feel better. Like it's in a way, we're lucky that it's a real residence because it's not secluded from a studio backlot. It's a private property, so we got to be mindful, but it is a place that you can freely just walk up to and admire. And I am grateful in a sense for that because, on days when I feel down, I can just drive by and be like, that's right, it's here. And it's an amazing feeling.
It's like, it's an instant, just like breath of fresh air.
Yes.
Wherever you go. Yes.
The invisible hug, right? It's Graham hugging you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely a blessing to be able to go by that house on a regular basis and just kind of, walk in their footsteps pretty much, right? Because they were, especially at least for the first 7 seasons, because we know they never returned for season 8, to like walk through the same areas where our favorite heroines were,
Yeah.
But so the real kick, so that's still in 2003, 13-year-old me. So we were there for about a week, right, in LA. And so I really formed like a good friendship with the then tenant. And as we get ready to head back to France, she breaks the news to us that Charmed had just posted boards around the neighborhood saying they're going to come and shoot. And I'm like, what? And they're gonna come shoot. And I was like, Dad, can we please, rebook the tickets or move things around and we can stay so I can go watch them shoot. And he's like, are you crazy? Like, no. So I was heartbroken. And so they were going to shoot, if you can remember, they were going to shoot that scene with Paige going back to the 60s with the 60s decked out house.
From Woodstock. Okay.
Correct. Yes, that was what they came to shoot. But what happened? So first of all, I was like, I'm not gonna get to meet Holly because I'm a huge Piper fan.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna get to meet Holly. Like, I want to see Holly. And thankfully, it was only Rose that day and not all three girls. So I didn't really miss that much in a way. But I was like, I'm not gonna get to see them shoot, and I was heartbroken. But it turns out they couldn't shoot that much because it was raining that day. So actually, a lot of the scenes in that one moment in the episode, half of it was on a soundstage. The only shots actually in front of the house were when the dad comes up and when they drive away in the minivan, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah.
But what was cool though is the then tenant took a bunch of photos for me. So I had these albums back in France of all these photos that she snapped on her old film camera of them setting up the decorations and having all the camera gear and everything. Like I have all those in old photo albums. Which again, nowadays with social media, they'd be all over social media, right?
Right.
But back then, unless you were part of the production, you couldn't see that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So I have all those, and I'll probably have my parents send them to me at some point. I can digitize them and share them with fans because I'm like, it's something that, especially now, since the show is still has such a big impact still on our generation, but also future generations. I'm like, it should be shared. It should not be a secret anymore.
The show is just timeless, and it keeps growing and growing, and it's like a Disney movie.
Yes, and I think it gets, or like fine wine, it gets better with age.
Yeah,
and it really does, because the stories are still relevant. I think, not to throw shade on Charmed, most of the effects still hold up. Some of them in their newly, restored version don't quite look as good. But I'm always a big fan of just the storytelling element and the family aspect of it, which I think has always been my biggest draw to this. It's how the sisters work together. It's the bond that they form, and the aspect. I've always been a fan of time travel. So just the aspect of how much the house and how much the family has gone through over generations and over the course of 8 years has always been a big pull for me.
And quality actors that were committed to making the world believable, because even when they were doing super silly things and the writing was off the wall, their performances made it believable almost every time. So it was great.
Yeah. But so I was heartbroken about that. And this is where the real thing, without knowing it, the real key to the Charmed set started. Because as a passion project with my dad, when we got back, I was already a fan of filmmaking at age 13. I think my passion for filmmaking started around like age 11 or so, 11, 12. So when I got back to France, I was like, I want to build a miniature Charmed house. And I was like, I want to build it so I can, because I had a bunch of like action figures and dolls and whatnot. So I used to make movies with them. And so I was like, I want to build a mini Charmed house so I can have the Charmed house in my films with my action figures.
Is that when you started getting connected with Hubert? Because I know you and he are friends too. Oh, is that after?
I met Hubert about maybe, I want to say 4 or 5 months ago through Instagram.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
And it's a funny little side story. So the way I came across his stuff, so they shot a film at the Manor, at the Charmed House a few months ago for the new David Oyelowo movie, directed by, what's his name? It's the guy who did American Hustle, and it stars Margot Robbie and
I'm so bad at this.
De Niro.
Okay.
And, they shot not outside the house, but inside the house. And I remember the one day where I was feeling down, I drove to Carroll Avenue, and lo and behold, production trucks, lights everywhere, the whole house wrapped in like film gear. I'm like, what is happening? I was like, I need to know what's happening. I had no clue what it was. I was like, is this happening? Is Charmed coming back?
I do remember when that happened too, because somebody posted they're like, I'm visiting the Charmed house today, and look, they're so disappointed.
I think we all had the exact same mental breakdown.
Yeah.
But so basically, I kept like looking on Instagram, around the location to see if I could see if there was any, leaked information. And I came across this photo of the inside of the house. I was like, ooh, wait, this is the inside of the house, but it looks so empty. And it was actually the miniature of Hubert.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, whoa, I totally just thought that was the actual inside of the house. And so I clicked on his profile, looked through all the photos, and was just
Blown away.
By how photorealistic and how tiny his work is. I gotta follow this dude.
Exactly. Every time you see his like little hand in there, like, wait, what?
I know. So, and that's how we first connected. And then I told him briefly about my charm set experience, and then we became best friends. But yeah, that was how I came across his profile. Was just wanting to see if what was shooting there was charmed or not. And then I saw his photo, and I thought it was them who had, you know, pretty much taken all the furniture out of the house to put in their stuff. And no, it was his set that was, you know, being built. But yeah, so what were we saying? Yeah, so when I got back to France after first meeting the tenants of the house, and as a filmmaker and you know, wanting to tell visual stories, I was like, I want to build a miniature charmed house for my action figures and dolls to shoot movies in. And so my dad and I took it upon ourselves, with zero architectural, whatever, you know, miniature design background, to just build it. We looked up photos, the photos that I had taken back then, blueprints that were already online, you know, from episodes from Charmed. And we just went to like a local, you know, Home Depot in France, bought all the wood pieces, and just built the house from scratch. And we didn't build the whole house like Hubert did. We built the front parlor and the front hallway, and then kind of stopped right there where the wall ends. And then we did the whole front with the staircase, and then like only like the shell of the second floor. And as I was it took like about 1.5 to 2 years to build most of it. And as we're building it, I kept taking photos and sending them to the tenant of the house, because her and I had become good friends. And so we kept emailing back and forth. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I got to show this to the crew next time they come to the house. And so she showed it to the crew when they came. I think they came to shoot It's a Bad, Bad, Bad World, which I also have a bunch. I have a bunch of behind the scenes photos when they came to shoot at the house for that.
Okay.
And so she showed them the photos, and they're like, oh my God, we got to meet this kid. And so because that was, I want to say, in the fall or the summer of 2004. That's when they shot the finale of season 6. And in the spring of 2004. And so we stayed in touch after that. And then as there were, I think I kept building more and more onto the house, because full disclosure, I never finished the house, because then I went off to college, and then just like,
you became a grown-up now, right?
I'm sorry?
You became a grown-up now. Yeah, so it's hard. Grown-up life takes the fun out of everything.
I'm embarrassed to say that. And I know what the worst part is, and it's going to be heartbreaking for all the fans to hear. I had to destroy most of it because they moved to a smaller house, and it was so big. It was like the size of like a twin couch. Like it was. Gosh.
Yeah.
So I was going through emails because I wanted to show Hubert the house, and I had them somewhere on hard drives back in France. But I found this one email I sent to the then tenant as a reference. This is a Barbie doll in the foreground.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is beautiful. Wow. I love it.
So it's huge. And so when they moved, they were like, well, we can't destroy the whole thing because of, you know, what it meant to us. So they kept just most of the front part and then just trashed the rest. At least we'll have a piece of it forever to remember. But I'm like, you cannot keep the whole thing. It's impossible. But so yeah, so as we're building more and more to it, I kept sending her photos. And eventually she showed it to the production crew. And they're like, this is so cool. And I think that was even before they had shot the episode with the actual miniature manor in season 7.
Sure, try hard.
Give them an idea. Like,
yeah, maybe.
I found out about that, but it would be funny if it did.
Because they did Scry Hard and then Repo Manor, both of those episodes. Correct. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. And Scry Hard. So I visited the set in April of 2005, which Scry Hard would have been shot, I want to say a few weeks, maybe like a month or two before I visited the set. So
when you visited, they were filming the finale, right?
They were.
Of 7?
Yes. And what was funny is, so not to get ahead of myself because there's a lot to share.
Okay.
But when I finally got to the portion where they were actually filming a scene, because most of the set was not being used except for Magic School, the director, I think that episode director was James L. Conway, who had done a bunch of the episodes of Charmed. He was reviewing dailies, which are basically like, you know, recently transferred footage from what was shot the day before, what they shot the day before, which was Phoebe's fight scene in the parking garage from the opening episode of Death Becomes Her, or Death Becomes Them.
Okay, yeah.
So they were reviewing footage of that as they were setting up camera angles for the scene they were shooting that day. So I got a glimpse of that while actually seeing them shoot, you know, that episode. So it was pretty surreal just to kind of get us, because I was already somewhat familiar of, you know, how film sets work, but again, 13-year-old, no film school experience whatsoever. So kind of getting to be in the mix of all that, of my favorite show was just like,
Yeah.
it was insane.
Oh, I'm just like, I'm geeking out just thinking about it and hearing about it. I'm like, because the fact of just to be on a set in general, but then to have it on something that you love is like crazy, beautiful.
Yeah, it really, really is.
What an opportunity! What an experience! That's so cool.
They saw the photos, got really excited, and were like, yeah, we want to meet this kid. And so then it became a question of, well, when, how, we got to take some plan because you got to book tickets for flights ahead of time. So I don't know if it was intentional or not that was going to happen in April when they were coming to an end of shooting a whole season's worth. And I can't remember if that was discussed because they'd be under less time pressure than being in the middle of a season. But eventually the whole idea of April came up. And I don't think we had an exact date because we're again waiting on their schedule as well. And I don't know if the tenant had tried to organize a day where all 3 girls were going to be on set because all 3 girls plus Brian were on set that day.
You sent me some pictures and I'm just like, oh my God.
And you know what the worst part is? I met and chatted with Alyssa, but she went off to lunch before I could get a photo with her.
Oh.
Like at one point, and I kid you not, and again, I'm getting ahead of myself. At one point, as I was showing them photos of my mini manor, I had all 3 girls hunched over me looking at the photos.
Wow.
And then Alyssa went to tie her shoe. I went to go take a photo with Holly and Rose. And by the time I went to go with Alyssa, she had gone off to lunch. And I was like,
see,
no
someone should have taken a picture of them hunched over your shoulder. That would have been amazing.
Oh, I know.
Oh, that picture. But the experience is there, so.
Yeah, it was actually, I can tell you, it was that table that's in magic school. When you walk into the main big room, there's like a long table.
Yeah.
That was where it happened. Like they were all like around the table with me putting the paper. Oh, yes. yes. But so April 2005 comes around and my dad and I fly out to LA, like our, annual, trip. And my mom couldn't come because we had dogs and we could leave the dogs unsupervised. And she was like, it's just for you anyway, Nick, so just go. So my dad and I flew out here pretty much just for Charmed, which sounds awful when I just put it that way.
No, it's the most beautiful thing ever.
I cannot thank my parents enough.
We're the crazies. We're the crazy people.
We are. But you know what the thing is? We don't harm anyone by doing this. We're just living our fullest, most geekiest and passionate selves. Yeah. And I think it's the healthiest thing to do as a human being.
Beautiful. Yeah.
But so we flew out here and I stayed with the then tenant who at that point actually had moved out of the house. They were no longer living in the house by the time I came to visit the set. And as I'm sure you know, as I'm sure all the fans who are listening know, at that time they had moved from their initial studio location to Paramount.
Yes, because they're in Canoga Park and then they moved to Paramount. Yes. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, the first 6 years were in Canoga Park and then that got torn down because they built a bunch of apartment complexes over it. And then they moved to Paramount for the last 2 years.
And have so much more space.
So much, and all those exterior sets, right?
Yeah.
All those New York streets and that they use for San Francisco were all at their disposal now. So it was a really early morning. I remember we got up and I think I got up at 6 or something and got dressed, got ready, and got in the car. I had my video camera. You couldn't take a video camera onto the lot, but the whole car right there, I have video somewhere back at home of me being all out of my mind crazy about getting to the set. And now that I look at the photos, I'm like, what was I wearing? Things you thought you were cool when you were a kid, right?
Yeah.
And I had brushed my hair, which was awful because it just made it this big poofy thing. But so we arrive at the studio, and I think Charmed had, at least 2, if not 3 sound stages.
Okay.
Because they had a lot of sets. They had the whole house set. They had P3. They had the Bay Mirror set, which was also, I'm sure as you know, was doubled also for the police station.
Yeah.
They just dressed it. They had the Magic School set. They had a small interior street alley set, which they also repurposed a lot of times throughout the seasons. They had the Demon Cave set, which fun fact, the floor of those sets of the Demon Caves were those bouncy floors on
oh yeah, those squishy yeah.
That's what the floor was for all
cool.
the stuff where people would fall and whatnot. The demon floor was those kind of bouncy.
I had a teacher in high school. He was a choreographer because I did theater. He came after we were doing Cats. He's like, guess what? I went to go visit the Charm set. I was like, what? I used to be so mad at him because he didn't even care about the show, but he saw when they were filming something in one of the caves.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I used to hate him so much. Well, just like kind of like when I mentioned this on my other podcast, Hanging with the Halliwells, but when they had like the Make-A-Wish kids or like the people that
Yes.
were cancer kids and they would come visit, I used to be so mad at them.
I know.
I felt so bad. Like, I know I'm going to hell, but I'm like, are they a bigger Charmed fan than me? I don't know.
I know. And you know, but to that point though, a few years ago, I was like, oh my God, did they all think that I was a cancer kid or like a sick kid? Like, what if no one briefed them ahead of time?
Oh,
They're all
wow.
like, oh, this kid's probably dying. Let's be nice to him. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Um,
Next time
but-
you meet one of them, say if they remember you and ask them what if you thought what they thought.
So about that one time, 2005. But so we arrive on the studio lot, and the first thing they do, and I still have that manila envelope. Let me go get it.
Sure.
First thing they do is one of their PR people shows up and hands me this manila envelope.
Ooh, Manila. That's how you know it's
And if you look
important.
at the names that were scratched out, one of the names is Jean Pare, who's also
Oh,
one of the Charmed.
yes.
And then below it is my name with the Paramount logo. And in that manila envelope was this 3 signed photos from the girls.
Wow.
Holly, Alyssa, and Rose. So it was like a welcome, to the set, a little gift. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And again, I think I must have been like in some kind of a trance that day, because while I do remember a lot, it just also at times feels like, was it a dream, or was this real? Like, thank God I have the photos, because I'd be like pinching myself every single day. And so we walk in, and the first thing we see when we walk in was Piper's bedroom. That was the first thing. I forget the soundstage numbers, but here's a fun fact. If you take a tour of Paramount Studios,
Okay.
every soundstage has a plaque on the wall that lists every movie or TV show that is ever shot
Oh,
there.
wow.
If you look at the plaque, it'll tell you which soundstage Charmed
That's
shot.
pretty neat.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And
Cool.
I checked. I went to Cinegear a few years ago, which is when they showcase all the latest camera gear and whatnot in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And you get to walk through the Paramount lot. And I checked, and yes, it does say Charmed. It does say.
There you go. There you go.
And so yeah, the first set piece we walked into was Piper and Leo's bedroom, and everything. They had turned on all the house lights, so it was not nighttime or daytime. It was just like
Studio time. Yeah.
Exactly. House lights on. And we walked in through, so if you're facing the door that leads to Piper and Leo's bedroom, if you look to the right, it goes down the hallway to Phoebe or Paige's bedroom or Wyatt's bedroom. All three.
All three.
And to the left is a door that leads nowhere.
Okay.
That's the door we walked in through.
All right.
And I've had the whole hallway. To the left was Piper and Leo's bedroom. We walked in there. I took a photo, I believe, on the chair. And it was weird because, again, like you had seen this for so many years before, like it felt like you knew exactly where you were and where you were walking into. But yet it didn't feel as alive or realistic because it wasn't lit to look like an actual house. So
and their kind of pieces are disconnected too, since it's kind of a set.
Correct.
So yeah.
Correct. So in this case, thankfully, this part of the house was all put together.
Okay.
You'll see there are parts of the house later on that were not put together. I was like, what's happening? Because yes, as I'm sure you're aware, in film sets, everything can be taken apart to put the camera wherever you want it to.
Yeah.
So, and that's why, in a way, I'm counting my blessings that they were not shooting any of the house pieces, because it would have been impossible to see it in a way that I did. They were shooting at Magic School, so it gave me a chance to really walk through every single set piece with no disruption. Which, in hindsight, I'm like, oh thank God.
Wow.
I'm like, guys. But so we walked around the whole, second floor of the house, and I went into the bathroom, took a photo in front of the famous shower. Piper and Leo had their little moment when we were up with them.
I'm not looking at anything. I do not see anything.
I bump into the wall.
Yeah.
And I also, again, as a filmmaker, I also wanted to see the other side of it, right? I didn't just want to see what the camera saw. I wanted to see what no one else got to see. So I should always walk behind the wall and check out what it looked like on the other side of what the camera rarely showed. And so I have a bunch of photos of those sides as well. We walked to the front, which was Phoebe's bedroom, which was completely empty. So they were probably swinging it between either Paige's room to Phoebe's room or Phoebe's room to Wyatt's room. So that had pretty much no furniture in it whatsoever. And then I took a photo on the stairs that lead up to the attic, which of course lead to nothing. Took a photo on there. And then from there, and here's where it gets really fun. Because as I'm sure you know, film sets don't have floors. They're all on the same level, right?
Yeah.
So stairs that go up or stairs that go down lead to nowhere. And so as we walk out, I believe we walked out through the bathroom, we confront this like big wall that was the outside of the attic. So pretty much the overall layout so far, and I'm not gonna give everything away. The first part of the soundstage was second floor of the house, and next to that was the attic set.
Okay.
And so we walked through that little path that would come if you were to walk in through the, up the stairs into the attic door. We walked in through that, little pathway through the door, and boom, there was the attic. Again, pristine, like it felt almost like I mean, it's a set obviously, but it just felt like something so surreal and in a way fake, because again, it wasn't lit, there was no one there. It was just like this like eerily abandoned, perfectly maintained home.
Wow.
And of course the book was not there.
Right, it's under lock and key. Yes.
Under lock and key, or in this case, when they're shooting, it has its own babysitter. So there was always someone on set responsible for the book. So they never left it unsupervised on set. It was always with someone, no matter where they were on set.
Yeah.
So the book was not there, but the book stand was there, which is the photo I sent you of me behind the book stand. Or the book, there's like a proper name for it, right? Like where they put the book on. Is it a book stand?
I mean, yeah, it's a book stand. I call it, it's an antique book stand, you can say. But yeah, it works. Yeah.
So after the second floor, we walk into the next piece of the soundstage set, which is the attic. And again, everything's laid out on the same level, side by side. And what I love with the attic, as I'm sure you've seen on the show as well, is they actually had slanted ceilings, matching wood. So unlike the rest of the sets, which, as you know, film sets, right, they never have a ceiling.
No ceiling, yeah.
This one had pretty much a full-on ceiling. It had a couple of like openings in the top, but it pretty much had this like beautiful wooden, attic like ceiling. Gorgeous, immersive set. The amount of detail that was around there, that had been there pretty much since day one in terms of the stuff on the shelf and the furniture was just absolutely beautiful. And I was nervous because I'm like, we had, our chaperone, kind of pushing us around, who was one of the PR people for the show. So I could like take all my sweet time in there, but just being able to, walk around, take a few photos, and pretty much again, like stand where so much, of charm history had taken place was just crazy to me. It was crazy. And again, as a filmmaker aspect of it, being able to see it from any vantage point that my eyes wanted to was really cool. Because I saw things that again you rarely get to see, which is, for instance, the curtains that they use to highlight San Francisco outside the windows. A curtain for nighttime and a curtain for daytime. And they also have these lights out front that are around the windows. Lights that are set for blue for night and lights that are set for white for daylight. And so pretty much all these sets have these beautiful big curtains they can just like pull around like a shower curtain that'll give you the city of San Francisco.
And that's why it changed every once in a while. They must have updated it. Like, this is a new view.
I know. And at times you're like, for them to see so much, they must be like up on like a mountaintop.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But so what was really funny after that was realizing that right across from the attic was the whole ground floor of the house. So if you think about it, if you were not to pull the curtain between both sets, if you were to look out the front door, you'd see the main front window of the attic.
Oh, how funny.
And I have photos of that as well. You look at the front door and what do you see? You see, so you remember that window that Prue destroyed with her, super powers in the future?
Yes.
That window, which is also part of the set, that window, at least according to the way the layout was on the Paramount studio, I can't speak for the way it looked on the Canoga Park studio, but in Paramount, that window was right across from the front door of the first floor. So it's pretty crazy to think how everything is at such a close proximity.
Yeah.
And yet, again, the way the show, the way film magic works, it's on the third floor of the house.
Amazing. Magical.
It is magical. It really is magical. And I wouldn't take any of that film magic for granted, because one sec. Yay. How
Yay.
so fun. He got the email.
Ta-da.
All right. Whew. I wouldn't take any of that for granted because, for me, it was, like I said before, a mix of just being such a big fan of the show, but also being a fan of the way film magic, works. And so being able to marry the two, marry my passion for the show and what it's meant to me for all these years with getting to, because without making this up, I think it was pretty much my first real set experience as a budding filmmaker. So getting to marry the two, I think, was extra special because it brought my childhood family in a way together with my passion for filmmaking. And I feel like a lot of my early filmmaking tactics and trials and errors came from trying to mimic what I had seen on Charmed. So I do give a lot of credits to Charmed for just kind of in a way inspiring me to do certain things a certain way in my early films.
It's amazing how much Charmed, like our passion, the fans, became creative. We learned things. We're so passionate that everything, our whole worlds became based on that. It's so cool. It's amazing.
It's funny. I still feel it transpiring through me from time to time.
Yeah.
Like, it never leaves me. Never leaves me. And I think it's amazing because I think it speaks volumes for the show and the impact it had on the fact that it still has such a pull, in all the Comic Cons and all the conventions that it does to this day still, is a testament, again, like we said earlier, to the show, to the cast, to the storylines. Like it would not be what it is today if it was already amazing and so powerful back when it was in its heyday.
Yeah.
Okay. And that comes the main
event, the main story.
and that was just fun because again, you never get to see the other side. And actually, make this more fun for you, I'm going to show you some of the photos. I'm going to
okay.
So you can kind of see what I'm talking about. You never really get to see the other side of the house, right? Especially back then, before, again, social media.
Yeah.
So this is what you would see if you're looking out the front door of the house, basically.
Okay. Wow. There it is.
You would see the blue lights for nighttime. You see the white lights for daytime. And again, like all in disarray because again, they were not shooting there at the moment. And then as you turned your back to that, you would see this.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Wow. Famous first floor of the house with the front door being like right here in the corner.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I have a photo for you of that as well. And then I'll jump back into the storytelling. But yeah, so this is the front door right here.
My heart is so full. Because it's like we get to see it, or the familiarity with the new. So it's a beautiful mix.
Yes.
And I've seen set pictures before, like that they had like published in magazines and things, but
yes, they did. Yes, they did. And I think it was for the finale. So when they shot the final episode of season 8, I think that's when they had some reporters come in and they had like Holly and Brian and Alyssa kind of lounging on the couch in the attic and whatnot. And they had a couple of photos, but here's the kicker. All the lights were off. All the lights were on for me.
See?
So I'm like, I didn't even turn the lights on for the photographers who are doing this for the magazine. But it was like, again, like it wasn't lit for like a daytime or a nighttime, but they had turned on the house lights. In their photos that they had on the magazine, I was like, why does it look so dark?
Yeah.
But so yeah, walk up to the front door. Of course, I had to take a photo in the famous door frame of, the Charmed set. And again, just taking it in for what it was and getting a sense of just the layout and when you watch it on TV and the way the real house layout or the way the set was built, you can kind of imagine how it was. But then standing there and seeing, what it actually was and kind of having, the curtain pulled, and you can actually see it was just such a weird sensation. And then I don't know about you, and I want to hear what your favorite room is. My favorite room has always been the front parlor. That, that like pinkish, salmon colored room with a comfy couch and the pink curtains and the fireplace. Like I always loved the way that front.
And that front window is always really iconic too,
Iconic.
Yes.
So that was my favorite rooms. And so that was the first one just kind of like oohed and awed over, just because of how so much happens in that room. Of course, every other room of the house as well. But I feel like whenever, they bring in an innocent or something, so they always pop them down on that couch. Like it seems like to be the first place where they orbit and where they drop them in when something happens.
Right.
Let's just put them down somewhere. I always regret that they never showed us the girls reading a book in that little nook to the left when you enter the home.
I know. Yeah,
like,
it's always just kind of there, and they're forgotten about.
A few times I had people talk there, but I'm like, come on, like it's such a cute little corner. But so going into that main, front parlor room, and again, that was at the time when I was still kind of finishing up my mini charmed house. So my mind was also like, I just want to see all the details. I want to see the way they hung up the curtains, the way, all the little, figgity bobs, are displayed around, around the room. And it was just, again, it was a mix of just looking, like what the camera would see, but then also always, drawing my eyes up and looking at where the walls would end and all the lights and the stage ceilings would start. And so just being reminded of these four walls just being, these sets, right? And again, the illusion of filmmaking works was just such a weird feeling for me, because I had known for years what it was, but again, being there in person, just, it really felt, I can't think of another word, but surreal. So of course I had to take a photo of me plopping down on the couch, because I could not do that. And here's the sad thing, I got something I'm not crying. The one little sad thing, and my dad was so mad about it, because my dad didn't come. They limited how many people could come to the set. Even though there was no social media, they did not really allow. They were so secretive. You couldn't spoil what was going to happen, so you had to keep it on the down low. So they really limited the amount of bodies that could go in that were not part of the production. So my dad couldn't come. And so I have my little digital camera to snap the photos. And whenever I wasn't taking the picture, I had asked, the then tenant to snap photos of me, except she wasn't good with the digital camera.
Oh.
So a lot of the photos are actually blurry.
Oh,
a lot of the photos that she took of me are blurry. And my dad is like, see, if I would have come with you, they would have been blurry. I'm like, but I couldn't take you. I couldn't take you. So the photos that I took are in focus. The photos that she took, a lot of them, unfortunately, are out of focus. Because, back then you had to
you'd hold it
all the way.
Let it focus first before you flatten. Yep.
And she never let it focus. The only times the photos were in focus, thankfully, were with the actors. I was like, oh, thank God they're in focus.
Oh, good. Because those pictures you sent me are beautiful. I'm just like, yes, swooning.
So then we made our way into the main front room, and with the staircase. And again, it's after having seen the show for 7 years, walking through those rooms and being in that set. I can't really think of the right words to say right now in the moment.
Speechless.
But it's really speechless, because again, you're not directed by the camera, or limited by what the camera sees to take in all the corners of the set. And while I couldn't go snooping around every single corner, because again, we were getting a tour of it pretty much. It was still cool to be able to see it from my own vantage point and my own eyes. And the one thing I definitely wanted to do, and they let me do it, I was like, I want to go up the stairs and see what's at the top of the stairs. And as I've shown you the photo, but I also have it in the folder for you, I was like, I'm going to go up the stairs, I'm going to take a photo. And I did. And as you go up the famous stairs, this is what you see at the top of the stairs.
Yes. Is that
no?
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing. So the white sheet usually will be used to diffuse light, if they'll shine light from the top down.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's just open wall space. They probably have enough of a crawl space up here so that they could walk. But otherwise, it's just, if you were to walk past that, you would fall back down into the living room. Because again, no ceilings, right?
Yeah.
So I went up the stairs. I was like, I need to, because again, you never see that. And one of my main things, as I was visiting the set, I was like, I want to see what the camera never shows you. That was one of my main side goals. That was the filmmaker and me parallel to the fan was like, I want to see the sets, I want to see the girls. And the filmmaker side of me was like, I want to see the how they do the magic, right?
Yes.
So those are the things I was like, I just want to see them for myself and finally be able to check them off my list. And so I saw the top of the stairs. I was like, this is amazing. And then from there, went down to the living room. And then that was a fun surprise. And I didn't take a photo with them because they were so young. But as we walked into the sunroom, the Wyatts were chilling in the sunroom with their mom.
The Wyatts.
So I
Jason
met
and Christopher Simmons, very cute. Yes.
I got to briefly meet them, and I met the mom. And I believe the tenant took a photo with her camera, just them standing with the mom. But we did not want to pose with the kids. But yes, I did briefly meet the Wyatt twins. Yes.
That's so cool.
They were probably on break or something, but they're just kind of chilling there in their little, orange pants. So sweet. And even the mom, even though they didn't really have much dialogue, they were still such a central piece to the show. And I mean, yeah, so recognizable still to this day, because they were still part of, at least, because when did they hire those kids? I want to say that was like season seven, right? 7 and 8.
Well, they actually it was, I'm trying to think. It was near the end of season 6. At first, I mean, no, sorry, no, it was not in season 6, and season 5.
Right. You're right.
Right. Because they were all season 6. There was a few episodes right after Wyatt was born that was not them. But I can't remember which episode they started.
Like Baby's First Demon and whatnot, and maybe like when they the one where they Sense and Sensibility, I think was like a different baby, right? So they probably started having the Wyatt kid probably towards like the Goddess episode, maybe
that or Necromancy in the Stone. So yeah, I can look it up.
But yeah, so they were there, and then we wrapped our way around the sunroom, which I always loved the way the light felt in the sunroom. And so being able to kind of walk through there and kind of really take in the space, and again, look onto the other side of the sunroom, which I also have photos of, and just seeing how it looks from the other side. Because what was really cool for the way the set was constructed is, usually the camera rarely shows you, the camera really shoots flips out the set. It only shoots the inside of it, right? But for Charm, since they oftentimes would, do like a through the window shot, or like match a shot from the house to, in front of the window when the girls were looking out the window, they had to build certain portions of the house to match the window frame. So what was cool with the sunroom, especially since you could always see out the windows, they had to build certain parts of the house, the red wooden wall around the corners, so that when they shot from outside in, you'd have the illusion of it being the real house. So it was cool to kind of see the portions, like even like when I show you the other photo too, of the the front of the house. You'll notice how most of it's just like brown wood, but they'll have certain portions around the windows where they actually have like somewhat of a replica of the actual manor.
Right.
And so that way they could have the option to pull the camera further back and reveal more of the quote unquote house. And the one photo I have in here for you of the sunroom is this one right here with a bicycle parked out front.
I wonder if it's Phoebe's bike.
I don't know whose bike it is. And then they just use this like paper to, I guess, create like the the frosted glass effect.
Okay.
So pretty simple. But yeah, that's the back of the sunroom. So if you were to make a left through those doors, you'd be in the dining room.
It's okay. Oh yeah, I see. Cool.
And same thing, dining room. I have this one photo looking. Oh, actually, this is what photo I want to show you. I have a photo in the dining room looking straight down to the front door. And then what do you see through the front door? The attic. And that is like one of my favorite photos.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
All the way down.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
You see the attic window?
Yeah. Look at that. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'll send all these to you so you can post them and share them. But yeah, so and again, I think that for me as a filmmaker was like the real geeky aspect, which is like really getting a sense of just how all these things are this huge puzzle piece, right?
Yeah.
And at home, all we see is what they want us to see. But again, being able to kind of be my own director in a way and see with my own eyes was the most fun of that experience. And then of course we get to the kitchen, and this is where it gets kind of again film set like, because the kitchen was open, and not open as in like doors are open. No, they had split the kitchen open.
Oh.
So, I have a photo for that for you as well. They were probably, so usually the reason why they would do that is because sometimes Charm would shoot with 2 or 3 cameras, and so again, to have room for that, if they were shooting, say for instance, the girls talking about like the like stove looking table thing in the middle of the kitchen, they would fly out one of the big main kitchen walls to put all the camera and the lights.
Oh wow.
And so they were either prepping or had finished shooting something the day or the night before, and hadn't fully put the kitchen back together. And so when we got there, this is what the kitchen looked like. They hadn't quite closed it all the way.
Sure.
So, like a dollhouse, pretty much.
Exactly. It's like when Pepper blows up the dollhouse and it opens up.
It kind of cracks open.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. So yes, the kitchen was kind of cracked open. And again, it was just so surreal again to see just the attention to detail. Having been in the real house like you have, but also having been on the set, you could tell that they had done such a beautiful job at capturing the essence of a Victorian house. And only a few episodes show this, and I know the 100th episode does, but they actually also recreated the sliding doors that are between all the main frames, like the actual house has as well. So they really, really put so much attention to detail to give it that authentic Victorian feel, look, and touch. And that's, I think, what made the show even more grounded for me as a viewer, and I'm sure for a lot of fans as well, is just how real it felt. And of course, as you get more mature and you put the pieces together, you're like, oh, well, okay, it's a set. And of course, you can't shoot this much in a real house. It's impossible. So it had to have been a set. But just the way they beautifully made sure to keep the illusion alive, I think is one of the, again, testaments what the show holds up so well, is because they did just such a beautiful job with it.
Even the furniture, like you go into the actual house, you go into Innes' house and you see the furniture. It's like, did they like find exactly replicas of the furniture? Or did they must have just made stuff that was like super inspired by them.
Yeah,
and
well,
it's amazing.
And also the film magic aspect of it too, because they blew so many things up in that show, right? Furniture, items and whatnot, that what I believe they would have done, because it's usually hard to find the same item again, but what they would probably do is they would just build a replica of the actual item, remove the item, and destroy the replica. So say a couch or the famous grandfather clock, they probably built a cheaper knockoff version to destroy it and kept the actual one to then put it back when it was fixed.
It's kind of like all of their, like, there's 4 or 5 Book of Shadows they have, so
right, the one that they could throw, the one they could actually open and have
so
so then as we finished the tour of the house, so the main first sound stage was just all house stuff, and then we'll make our way to the next stage and actually have a photo, bird's eye view of the next stage. We walk in and this is what we see.
Oh wow.
And you want to take a guess what this set might be?
I'm trying to look at it closer.
So it has a bunch of like air ducts. So it's probably because it's going to have a lot of people inside.
Something hot or something to cool.
Why would you need to cool down a big crowd?
Probably the basement?
No. Probably have some live music in it.
Oh, P3.
Yeah, it is P3.
Yeah, that's right. You told me you did go to the P3 set.
Yes. So we walk into the next soundstage, and the first thing we walk into, like down the stairs, is P3. And again, it's from the outside, all you see is all these wooden pieces, right? And then as you walk in, you're like, oh, that's what this thing is.
Wow.
So again, P3, again, fully furnished, right? Like everything. The cool thing with P3, again, where they have the actual air ducts, is because when they would have scenes with, 40, 50, 60 extras, it was like a real club. So you had to keep the air circulating.
Sure.
It's hot in there. So, stage, they have the P3 sign. I got a photo on the actual couch that the girls would always sit on when they were at P3. I got a photo on the stage by the P3 sign. And Ashley got a photo because that back room was there too. Piper's office. I got a photo in her chair at her old iMac.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. I have a photo in that chair with all the posters of all the different bands who either did or actually never. They sometimes had posters of bands that never performed at P3.
Most of them were never people that performed at P3. Yeah.
I know. But yeah, so P3 is really fun again because of also just how many actual big performers have been there. The Cranberries, right? The Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah.
So many iconic, singers and bands who either became famous after the show or already had some kind of a following before, really got a great platform to showcase their latest song. And I thought I know a lot of my early soundtrack was formed from what I heard on Charmed.
Sure.
And a lot of my music taste kind of grew from, either, because back in the day, iTunes would recommend, if you like this artist, you may like this one. And so when I would get songs from Charmed, they would recommend the other artists similar to those artists. And so I feel like a lot of my early music, genre came from either Charmed or derivatives of Charmed artists. Yeah.
So there are some really fun. I mean, it's definitely artists of the times, like very much that 90s vibe. I love the early 2000s vibe, but those are jams. So.
They are jams. And I still listen to them on a regular basis. And actually, funny side story, a friend of mine took me to a concert a few years ago. She had VIP tickets to a concert where the Plain White T's opened and the Goo Goo Dolls performed.
Oh.
And so we had backstage passes. And so I got to meet the Goo Goo Dolls. And I told him, I said, I discovered your music on Charmed. And they're like, oh my God, we love it. I'm on Charmed. We're the Alyssa Milano fans. And they totally geeked out over Alyssa Milano the whole time. And it was so cool to like let them know that thanks to this show, I became a fan of your music. And it's so true. So many artists that I had never heard of before, I discovered because I liked their stuff on Charmed.
See? This is so cool. That's so fun. And I love that, this bonus episode is like tying in all the past bonus episodes, because I did a P3 episode and I did the Mariner episode. So this is exciting.
And so from P3, then we walk into the next room or the next set piece, which is the police station. So police station, which at that time, which is actually really funny, the main room was police station and the side office was Phoebe's Bay Mirror office. So they were like halfway between one and the other. So I'm like, oh, that gives it all away then. No more mystery there.
Exactly.
So that was pretty bare bones. So they probably must have been between, dressing from one to the other. Pretty small set, nothing too big or crazy. But I did, make sure to poke my head into every little corner in there. And then they had, and that was so funny, like an L looking set piece. It was just like two walls with like a fake elevator door for the Bay Mirror elevator.
Yeah.
And that's all they had there. I was like, that's random, but I guess there it is on its own. So I snapped a photo of that. I snapped a photo of everything. Everything I could snap a photo of, I snapped a photo.
I mean, you have to, really. You have to.
Too. Again, like I was saying before, because there was no social media, they probably thought it's never going to go anywhere anyway.
Right. It doesn't matter.
No, and now it doesn't matter either because the show is over. So now it's more like giving fans what they've always wanted to see versus, spoilers of what we've seen everything.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to give you some really cool photos to share with the fans, and hopefully they'll get a kick out of
yeah.
they've never really seen before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a perspective for sure. It's going to be very exciting.
And so then from there we walk into what is like one of their fake exterior street sets. One of the main examples I can think of, the opening of the 150th episode, the 7-year witch.
Centennial Charmed. Oh no, so 150th you said.
150th.
150th. Yes. Okay. Yes.
That opens with Piper and Paige walking down the alley, and she mentioned how there's like 150 mattresses just like that one.
Yes, again, like the 150 mattresses, 150th alley we've been through. Yeah.
That alley right there. That was right next to the police station set.
Okay.
Yeah. So they had that, and what's funny now that I look back at the photos, it had all kinds of, cram and whatever junk in there, from where it was almost like a storage area in a way for when they were not using it, right? And on the floor were these like long pieces of wall set pieces that had blue wall on them. And again, thinking back to what they're probably shooting around that time, I want to bet money those wall pieces were from, and I forget her name, Paige's charge that then dies in the hands of Zanku and Death Becomes Them, the blonde with the pixie cut.
Joanne.
Yes, nice. I believe her apartment had blue walls.
Okay.
So I think those were set pieces from her leftover set that they had built for her scenes.
Oh wow!
Throwing them into the hallway, into the alleyway of that unused set.
Right, because it was just some random blue apartment they needed. So
exactly. Yeah. And actually, what's funny is that set has become a swing set as well. Because if you look at it carefully, that apartment also could have dubbed as Kyle's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
It could have dubbed as the apartment, the pirate episode when Paige meets the one girl, about that same apartment as well. Like it was used
her name was Brenda Castillo. I remember that.
Oh my god, yes. In the Heights. Yes. Oh my god. I love this. I love this because you and I have never met. We have a couple mutual friends that we've never met. And yet it feels like we've known each other forever because we have this
shared it's amazing.
I love it so much. And then from there, that was pretty much all that was on the second stage. From there, then we go to the next stage, which was like, we got to be quiet because the next stage is where they're shooting. And the next stage, of course, is Magic School. And so I was like, and I can even feel myself getting nervous now just talking about this. So we had to be really, really quiet because they were in the middle of a take. And again, I had no clue what to expect, what was happening, where we're walking in from. All I knew is that we had to be quiet and walk very slowly. So we open the door, walk into the soundstage, and now that I think back on it, we're walking. So if you come down the hallway of Magic School and you see the main big room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those side doors that are in the main big room, we came in from, if you're facing the room, we came in from the right side.
Okay.
Walking along the back of those walls, through that little door, nice and quietly as they were shooting. And the coolest thing, and this is my favorite part to share of my visit at the Charm set, we were walking in and they were literally shooting. So they were like just before, just after, they were shooting. And so we walk in and we see, you know, the monitors that were showing what the camera was filming, the entire crew sitting there, but no girls. And so, you know, my friend tells me, that's the monitor. That's where you can see what the camera is filming. So I look at the camera, I look at the monitor, and I can see the girls, all three of them in that like room. And then Piper goes, Leo, and then she turns around, and then suddenly they come running out in the hallway. And it's like, literally, it's literally like they jumped out of the screen into real life. It was the craziest way because I had just seen them on the monitor, and she screams, Leo, and she runs out, and boom, there they are, running. I was like, oh, right there.
Oh, my heart is just skipping a beat right now. Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
And if you know which scene I'm talking about, this is the literal opening shot of the season 7 finale.
Okay.
So the Something Wicked This Way Goes.
Yes.
When they orb in, and you know, they figure out where the book is and where Zanku is, and they run out the hallway. That's what they were shooting the second I walked onto the magic pool set.
Chills. I love it.
And so then, you know, they yelled cut. The girls went to chill, and this is like a very awkward side note of mine, but I love I have long hair myself. I love long hair. And I kept thinking, I hope Holly has her hair down. I hope Holly has her hair down. And she had her hair down for the episode, but in between takes, she would put it up in a bun. I'm like, no. But so it was up when I met her. I was like, damn it. But it was down for the episode.
Yeah.
But so then, you know, they went to chill. It just feels like this weird like story in my head just thinking about all this again. I forget exactly what happened after they took a break, but I was just told to like not look at them, not disturb them too much, you know, just kind of, you know, let them come to me because they have their assistants, you know, bring them to me and whatnot. So I just kind of hovered to the side. I briefly met James L. Conway, who at that moment was reviewing footage of what they shot the day before, which was shot the opening fight scenes with Phoebe and that demon in the parking structure.
Yeah.
And
Raptor Demon.
Yes. And oh my God, what was the guy's name? I know the actor's name, but I forget his character's name. Colin Egglesfield, and he played.
Oh God, why can I remember that now? I just covered this.
He becomes a zombie.
Yes. I don't remember. I feel so awful now.
I know.
So fan I am. Oh my God.
And I met him once. He's a nice guy. I forget his name. It's not Dean. No. What's his name? I have to look it up.
I know.
Maybe it'll come to us as we continue talking.
Yeah.
And so then I had brought printout photos of my mini charm house in like a you know, plastic envelope to show the girls. I was like holding it and waiting. And I think this is what happened. Yes, while we were waiting, because the girls were doing something or they were setting up for another shot. Because I was also, again, like if you have your back to the main room of magic school, they were shooting down the hallway, right? Because that's the class they came out of. So they had all the camera gear and everything and all the monitors over in the back corner of the main room. And that's where I was kind of hovering to be out of the way until they told me where I could go and meet the girls. And that's where they had the person who was, I believe it was the guy, who was babysitting the Book of Shadows. And so he says, do you want to see the book? And I was like, yeah. So, and I don't think I'll show you this photo. I have a photo holding the actual book.
I was like, do you want to see the book? Do you want to touch it? Like, there it is.
And I didn't just hold it. I got to leaf the book too.
Yes.
I got a photo of the first page. I went through a bunch of pages of the book. And the only page I could think of taking a photo of, and I was like, why? Was the Elders page. I was like, well, not even the one with Cole and Phoebe's, photo booth photo. No, the Elders page. But I did get to briefly leaf it and hold the book.
See,
okay.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just like, now I want to get it. See, this is just a replica. It's a really good replica.
But it's gorgeous. Did you make it?
No, this was
It's beautiful.
Yes, this is made by Wayne from Prescott Manor, who stopped making stuff now. But
it's stunning.
why don't I go to the Phoebe page, the Cole page for you? So
yes,
you can...
please do. It's behind the Banshee page, right?
Behind the Banshee page. Here we go. It's in front of the Banshee page.
Right in front of the Banshee
I mean, on the show it's probably behind because when you touched it, the Banshee page is behind
Right.
it. But so there's a Banshee page here.
There it is.
And here we go.
Oh my God, I love it. Yes.
So yeah.
So good.
So I mean, it's just a replica, but you got to touch the actual book. So I mean, it's nothing.
The only other gem that I have is, I think I told you this, is the DVD box set that they had done a few years ago.
Oh, the Blu-ray or the
DVD, not the Blu-ray, the DVD. Yeah.
So
yeah, that one.
this one?
Yep, that one.
Okay.
Oh wait, hang on. I think one sec. Let me get mine. I believe the one you have has the DVDs side by side. Mine has them like, I have like 2 per page.
Oh yeah, that they did two versions.
Uh-huh.
So this is the bigger version where
Okay.
I take my pictures out because I have pictures, with them.
Oh my
So-
God, I love it. Yes.
Let's take those out. But like, let's see. See, there's the
Oh, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
pretty.
yeah, it's beautiful. And this is where I have everybody sign. When I get the signatures and stuff, I have them
Yep.
sign this.
Oh, it's
So,
genius.
When
love
I showed Wes Ramsey, I had Wes Ramsey sign, 'cause I met him most recently, and signed this
Uh-huh.
page, and he's looking because I had Brian and Holly and Drew in there. He's like, "Oh, I miss
Oh,
these people."
Aww.
It was really
Oh,
sweet.
that's so cool. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So yes, that's the only book that has actually like I have at home. I saw it at Best Buy years ago, and I was like, I cannot not buy this.
Yeah.
I cannot not buy this. I was
Right.
like, I just have to. I already have every season on DVD. I was like, I don't care. I'll have it again. But I gotta have it.
Exactly. I think I have the whole series like 8 or 10 times.
Oh wow.
'Cause I've tried to get every box set they ever made. I still don't have them, but they have I don't know if my hair is a mess right now. But they have an Australian set was like those purple DVDs, and they made like this
yes,
wall.
yes.
I don't have those, and I really want those, but
I have a French VHS set.
the one of the best of season 3.
Yes, I have that.
Yes. Oh, I admired that too. I'm like, I want that. But yeah.
I did. That was because back then I would always tape them, right? I would record them on TV. And that was the first, I think that was the first time, even before the DVDs came out, that they released an actual Charmed
Right.
branded video, right? And it was only exclusive to France. And it was like a best of, I think it was like maybe 6 episodes or
that
something.
black and purple design, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
Yep. I have it somewhere in a box
That's so
back
cool.
at home. Yeah. And they were the most random ones of season 3 too. I'm like, really? Those are the ones you put on there?
What were on them again? What episodes?
I believe it was Death Takes a Hallowell and Bride and Gloom and The Good, the Bad, and the Curse.
Okay.
It was like some of those, like, the middle ones of season 3, which
Yeah.
full disclosure weren't really my favorites. Like, I love the beginning and end of season 3, but the
Okay.
middle I was like, nah. I love season 2 and season 4. Those are like my
Okay.
favorites of the whole show.
Okay.
4. I loved elements of season 5. Full disclosure, season 8, I just watched it because I want to support the girls and root them on, but I could not stand season 8. Even though I cried for weeks after the finale,
Mhm.
I could not stand. It was just, you could tell they were just clocking in and clocking out, and it just didn't feel the same anymore to me.
Yeah.
For me, ended with season 7. The way they had this beautiful, hopeful, open ending, because seeing them get old and die in season 8, I'm like, no, don't rush into your old, seniorhood in front of our eyes in 5 minutes. Don't do that to me. My heart can't handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a good week, I was a mess. I was going through the worst breakup ever. And then I met Desperate Housewives, and I was fine. That became a new obsession after Charm.
Who just
and I
beat
have to talk about that.
beat Charmed by like 1 episode for the longest running female lead show. One episode.
I know.
I was like, really?
But Charmed had a bigger cultural impact.
Yeah, yeah.
Desperate Housewives made a big impact in terms of Emmy nominations and whatnot, and sadly, Charmed never got any of that recognition.
Right.
I think it's because it was just too fantastical. It wasn't grounded enough, I think, for the Academy of Television, which is understandable because they weren't, at least back then, that big of a fan of that kind of a television genre. But like we said earlier, the fact that fans to this day still love and keep the show alive so much is worth more than any award you could ever give them.
Yeah.
And it still airs on TNT every freaking morning.
There you go. I mean,
Like,
TNT
go
must
to
be
a
making
hotel-
bank from Charmed.
I'm sorry?
TNT must be making a lot of bank from Charmed. I'm sure people just keep watching it, you know?
And the girls too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because back then it was the old TV model where if you had over 100 episodes, you got what was it called? A syndication.
Mhm.
It was syndication. It guarantees them annual income. I don't know what the numbers are for Charmed, but they released them recently for the Friends actors. The Friends actors make on average $2 million a year just on royalties from Friends,
Wow.
and that's per actor.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know if Charmed is that high up, but I'm sure it's a good figure that they get on an annual basis just from reruns.
Wow.
Yeah. Because they get reruns not just here; they get reruns all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I visited France in 2006.
Okay.
I was taking French class in high school, and we had a little trip. I would watch Charmed episodes in French while I was staying there. It was very exciting.
They would air on M6. That was the network that would air them. Yeah. And they would always play them on Saturdays. They would play them. They would call it the Trilogy of Saturday, and they would always air. I believe it was one like an X-Files or a Buffy or something, and they would air 2 Charmed episodes. And that was like the big Saturday, 3, things to watch. And oh yeah, that was like, and I still have somewhere like all these recorded tapes of all the episodes I ever seen of Charmed that were aired on TV. And then of course, we all would download the episodes too, right? That was the early days of downloads where it's like, oh no.
I didn't download them until like recently. I mean, I have the whole thing a bunch, but I would just find clips. I could only find clips. I had audio clips, and I had like video clips, and like all the trailers I had.
So I still have them all on a hard drive because back then they would also do some. I know I have all of season 7 in HD quality with the WB logo on them.
Oh yes.
It had all the WB commercial, like logo things come up, which for me was really cool because I was still living in France back then, so it felt like I was watching American television.
Yeah,
that got me excited.
So did you get like the Alyssa Milano Ava Save-A-Lot commercial?
So I didn't actually get the commercial breaks. I just got, I just got like, the WB, things that would come up after the commercial break.
Gotcha.
Like, up next, stuff like that. But I do remember, in the early Charmed websites, they had, all the little, like promo or, bumpers that they would record with the actors, saying, you're watching Charmed.
Yes.
Yeah. They would do their signature in the air and all that stuff. Like, yeah.
It was totally lit. See, it was before Disney Channel started, maybe. Like, I'm gonna drive Mickey, but WB did it first.
You're right. And I remember always looking forward to their campaign because every season they'd have a new campaign. They'd have a new kind of like animation style and new colors and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I was always like, ooh, I wonder what next season's gonna look like, right? So that always got me really excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, so back to our sad story. But I love our tangents.
Right.
So the girls were taking a break from filming. I had just finished leafing through the book, and I believe the first one I met was Holly. They brought, because they knew I think the first thing the woman asked me when we arrived at the set was like, who's your favorite? I was like, I love Piper. So she brought over Holly, and I got to meet her, and I just told her, again, I can't really remember exactly what I said, because again, a 15-year-old is going to say, I'm your biggest fan. But I probably said something along those lines. I just, gave tell her how much the show has meant to me. I definitely know I told her that. And I showed her some of the photos of of my miniature house, which I don't know if they had briefed her about that or not, but she was so impressed to kind of see what it looked like and seeing all the attention to detail I put into it. And we posed for a photo, and I'll never forget this because I was afraid to touch her, but I remember she had like the faintest touch of like her hand on my back.
Oh.
And like I could feel like 2 or 3 fingers just like gently touching my back. And so whenever I like even do this to myself, I like remember like that's pretty much how I felt. Like it was a very gentle like little tap on the back as we posed for the photo. And I was just like, this is really happening. Like I'm posing with Piper right now. And just so gracious and so sweet, and I had been warned, my friend who, the then tenant said, she's short, she's short. I'm like, I know she's short. And here's the craziest little kick as well, like a little side note. It hit me a few weeks ago. It's like right now, I'm the exact same age that she was when I met her.
I know. Isn't that insane?
And it blew my mind. it blew my mind because I'm like, I still feel like a kid today. Like I don't feel like I have my life figured out. And I'm like, and there she was, like to me, she was, the woman, right? And I was like, oh my God. And now I'm exactly the age that she was when I met her.
It's so crazy. I talked to Brian over Zoom.
Oh wow.
Last year, I think right in the middle of COVID stuff, and I was showing him some because I've met them all in real life, but when I got to talk to them over Zoom, I got to show them some of my collection.
Yes,
which is exciting. And I brought out the wedding photo that I and he's like, do you remember this? He's like, I'm like, look how young you were. He's like, yeah, I was about like 32. I'm like, oh, so like my age now. Okay, great. Like, I guess
when we were growing up, like they were so adult to us, right?
Yeah.
But now it's like, well, wait, but now we're their age, but I don't feel like a grown up. I don't feel like an adult.
I'm a big kid always, like.
Are we the same age? Are you a 1990 baby?
I'm 87 actually.
Oh, okay.
So
about the same age, about the same age.
Yeah, same age as my brother. My brother is your age, so
nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, still young at heart. The passion and the creativity keeps us young.
Actually, my family life is kind of similar to the Charmed life because there's 4 of us, and a half sister. Except the half sister is the oldest.
Oh, okay. So like the reboot.
I haven't seen the reboot, but yeah, the half sister's the oldest, and then me and my brother and my sister.
Reboot either.
Yeah.
So after briefly meeting Holly, came time to meet Rose, and Rose was the sweetest. She was so chill and down to earth. I showed her the photos of the Charmed house, and she was just so taken aback by how cool it looked, and how just like she was like, "Can you make this with your father?" Like, yeah. I was like, "Oh my God, I love it!" And she was just so like energized, right? And when I asked her if I could take a photo, she's like, "Of course!" And you can see it in the photo. She literally took my hands and put them around her waist like a prom type photo. And so we posted the photo, and as I look to side of the camera, who's the guy taking the photo? Brian.
Yeah.
I was like, what? So I posed with Rose, and I was like, this is insane. I have Leo take a photo of me and Paige. Oh my God, yes! Oh my God, I love it. I love her spirit.
She's so adorable. When I met her, I'm like, she's like the cutest thing ever.
She really is. She really, really is.
I know, like on social media, she's got like this fighting spirit, and she does. She's very smart, but she's really just so cute and adorable and lovely.
Her heart is in the right place.
Yeah.
And I could tell that from meeting her. I mean, everyone, let me just say this, everyone on set was amazingly nice. And actually developed a pretty good friendship with the DP who was shooting. So Jonathan West started on the show, I think in season 5, and shot all the way through season 8. So he was the camera person. He was the director of photography for the show. And him and I stayed in touch after meeting him on set, and then after, even after the show had ended. I actually ran into him in a restaurant a few years ago. And I said, "You remember me?" He's like, "Yeah, you were the kid on the Charmed set." I'm like, "Yeah." And so he remembered me. No, everyone was super nice. And so I met with Rose, got a photo with her, got to chat briefly with her. And this was all like in between them working, right?
Yeah.
And then I believe we'd take a quick break because then they had to go back to shoot. And I literally was there to watch them shoot the scene when Piper, Phoebe, and Paige walk in and they meet Leo. And they have the exchange about, Xanker is the Book of Shadows, he's after the Nexus, that whole exchange. I was there for that whole thing. And that lasted about 2 hours. The whole Charm experience lasted about 3.5 to 4 hours from entering the soundstage to saying goodbye. So I watched them rehearse, which was really fun because rehearsal, as I'm sure you know, is just about getting a sense of, do you know your lines, where to stand. And so they were rehearsing, and I remember Holly saying her line, that access, like they were just like goofing around, saying their lines in any silly way, just to tell the director, we know what we're saying, we know what we're saying. And it was just really cool to kind of, again, like see the filmmaking side of it, right? See how they worked. They only had one camera, handheld. They were swinging left to right with the actors. And it was just so cool to kind of watch them work and do their thing. And it was just, as a budding filmmaker, having watched Charmed as my filmmaking passion was growing, and then being there and watching my favorite show being filmed and with no one really in the way was just so surreal. Because it was almost like a film lesson 101, because I got to see them all at work. I got to not only see them shoot, but then actually got, a few months later, I got to see the episode finished, right? And what
Like,
was funny,
I was there.
yeah, I was like, I knew exactly where I was sitting when that was happening. And what's funny is they had done multiple takes, right? They always do at least 2 to 3 to 4 takes per setup. And I remember initially the exchange between Piper and Leo, when she realizes that Zanku's after the Nexus, initially it was going to be a shot of Leo and a shot of Piper. And then I think in the last take, the director had told the DP, let's just have the camera swing from Leo down to Piper or up to Leo. And that's the shot they ended up using in the final episode, in the final cut, because you have the camera swinging from one character to the other character. But it was just so cool to see, again, like how they went about shooting it, the time it took to shoot that stuff, and then the runtime it has in the episode, which was maybe like, what, not even a minute to a minute and a half. So it was just, and then they came back for a quick break. I got my photo with Leo.
Yeah.
He definitely was like he was like the Labrador of the show. Like he was like the big cuddly kind dog that you just want to cuddle and be friends with.
Yeah.
And he really was. Leo was this beautiful, beautiful through line of this like kind-hearted soul, throughout the entire series. And so yeah, getting to meet him was really cool because he almost felt like a big brother in a way. And then came the moment where all 3 girls had some downtime, and we went over to one of the main tables in the middle of the Magic School set, and they all kind of hunched over, and I basically showed them all the photos that I had of my miniature Charmed house. And in a way, it felt kind of like show and tell, because they're like, "Oh, this is so cool. Oh, and you made this with your dad." Like they were all just like these like teenage girls looking at some cool photos I had to show them. And again, like this is like 15-year-old me like thinking, is this really happening? Are they all just like really just like standing there like looking at this like nonchalantly? And they really were.
That's like the first time I met Holly, because I brought this with me, to have them all sign this.
Yeah.
She was flipping through this. She's like, "Oh, look, Dan!" Oh, like, so they get excited about that stuff. It's so cool.
Yeah. And it was just such a in a way humbling experience to see these idols, right? Because they are our idols, right? Just being so human and down to earth about the whole experience. And then I believe I said a couple more things to Rose and to Brian, and then I did not want to push Alyssa to take a photo, and I was like, because she was literally like tying her shoes as she was looking at the photos, and then she walked off set. And I was like, "Oh, she'll probably come back." And then when I was ready to take a photo with her, because we were about to get ready to leave, we were told that she already had gone off to lunch. And I was like, "Well, there's no way we're going to say, can you please come back to take a photo with the kid?"
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, well, I guess I missed my chance at getting a photo with her. But I did get to briefly talk to her and meet her, in the mix of showing the photos.
It's funny because when I met Alyssa Milano, I met her in New York.
Okay. And a book signing, right? At a Barcelona.
It was at her Hope signing, her first Hope book. And I go up there, I had her sign my thing, and I talked to her, and then I left. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't get a picture with her." I totally forgot because I was so mesmerized just talking to her. So then I ran back. I'm like, "Okay, can I just cut and give a picture? I forgot to take one with you."
Oh.
So it's funny. It's like she's like that one that's always kind of like on the cracks.
Yeah. Well, and she's been around film sets for like her whole life, pretty much, with Who's the Boss. That for her, it's like almost like a second home at this point, being on a film set. And then I think after that, most of the girls, or at least I think Holly went back to her trailer as well. I think Brian did as well. And then Rose stayed behind, because right after that scene, and the rest of the girls took a break, they shot Rose's scene. Remember how later on in that episode, I think they cast a spell or something to see if Zanku reacts, and then they all kind of jumped back out because they were hiding. And then Rose walked from behind the couch towards the other girls. They shot just her portion while Holly and Phoebe went out to lunch.
Oh.
They did Rose with that shot. So they because as I'm sure you know, they always shoot things out of order on sets, right?
Yes,
and they shoot things in an order that benefits the actor's schedule.
The time. Yeah.
So as we're getting ready to leave, they were setting up the camera on the dolly to pretty much shoot Rose walking from. They were already rehearsing it as we're still there, and then they were shooting it as we're quietly walking away. We walked down the hallway of Magic School to then exit through the back. And I snapped some photos. I saw Holly's director chair. I saw her chair in one of the like side classrooms, and I saw Brian's chair. So I took photos of that. I took a photo of me down the hallway. And then I could see in the background. I was trying to say bye. And they were like in the middle of like shooting her walking, getting up behind the sofa and walking towards the girls. And then we walked around the corner. That was it for Magic School. That was it with meeting the girls and everyone. And then our last little set piece was like that under, the cave underground, underworld set piece with that really funny, bouncy, kind of playground feel of a floor. And and then we walked back to the car on the Paramount lot, and I was like in a trance. I was like, did
Yeah.
all this really just happen? Like from seeing the sets to seeing them shoot to meeting the key cast and crew, I was just like, this is insane.
Yeah.
It was completely insane.
Oh, it's just, I mean, just you telling me gets me all like tingly, so I can't even imagine what it would have been like to have actually been there and experienced that. That's
It
so
was, in a way, it was
wonderful.
kind of numbing because you're so overcome from you wanting to be present, right? But also wanting to remember everything as you're, you want to live it and record it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just sensory overload from seeing it to being there to feeling it. And I've told the story so many times to, again, like we're there at the beginning, to friends, but rarely to to fellow Charmed fans, that it's just, it's funny to always revisit that story and finally now get to share with hopefully fans that will find this, insightful or entertaining to hear.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna be a hit. People are gonna love this episode.
Oh.
So
And then actually, like a funny little side story too, years after visiting the Charm set, I got to meet Drew and Ivan Sergey on a set randomly. And this was so random. I'd become friends with an actor from Desperate Housewives, and he was doing an independent film in LA. And he said, "Do you want to come visit me on set and we can hang out for the day?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll come visit you." And so I arrive on set, and they were shooting on location, so it wasn't like too much of a hush hush kind of a situation down in the Arts District of LA. And I arrive, and he's like, "Oh, hey, meet my co-stars." They walked up,
like,
and Drew and Ivan, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like I was just like,
am I in the Twilight Zone? Yeah, all the people.
Yeah, I was like, of all his co-stars that he could have had, it had to be two former Charmed actors, and that was in the spring of 2013. So not too long after Charmed had ended. And so I met them. I played it cool. I didn't say anything about me being a Charmed. I was like, I'm just gonna be the cool filmmaker friend of their other co-star. But the whole day I was like. And then here's the kicker. During our lunch break, my friend treated us to massages. We weren't naked, but the whole we can go in, get your your neck massage,
Sure.
fully dressed. During lunch break, he treated me, Drew, Ivan, and himself to a massage. So we go to this place right during lunch break, and this was like him, Drew, me, and Ivan getting massages. I'm like, what is happening right now? And I got a photo with Drew and I got a photo with Ivan.
Beautiful.
After I told them, so after we were done filming for the day, it was like a cop film. We took the picture car, which is a car they use, when they film, films. My actor friend, who did you ever see Desperate Housewives?
No.
Okay, so if you ever watch it, he plays Terry Hatcher's ex-husband on the show. Richard
Okay.
Burton.
Okay.
He was driving the car. He said, "Oh, just get in the back with the other actors." So then I jump into the back seat of the cop car, right? And I'm like in the middle seat between Drew and Ivan. And it was like a 10-minute ride back to the main parking lot. And I was like, "Well, I guess it's now or never." So I said, "By the way, I was a huge Charm fan." And they're like, "Oh my God, you should have told us." And they were like sharing anecdotes with me. I was like, "What is happening?" But he was super sweet. I got a photo with him. I got a photo with Ivan. So I've met a lot of the actors pretty much. I never met Shannon.
She's the only one I haven't met either. I'm so sad.
Yeah.
That LA life, that fancy LA life.
The fancy LA life, but also just the Charmed life, right? I feel like there's always some kind of like a weird overlap or connection with Charmed. And I love how it's in a way always going to be a part of us, right? Like it was such an instrumental part of, I think, of our childhood and of our personality in a way. And I think that's why we get along so well as fellow Charm fans, is it's kind of had the same, emotional or character impact on us, whether we've connected with Phoebe or with Prue or with Paige or with Piper. The show itself had an impact on who we became as people. I think that's why we get along so well. And I think that's what I love with the power of, film or TV and, as a broader stroke, is the power of making these connections, of building these friendships and these relationships, because we gravitate towards the same kind of content. And like we said at the beginning, the fact that Charmed still has such a big cultural impact to this day, it's just, it always, how can I say this? It always gets me excited because it as a filmmaker and as an artist, it reassures me that, making good art and making work that inspires and excites people has a way to influence their lives and to bring something positive in their life. And so my hope as a filmmaker is to hopefully have that kind of an impact one day as well. But to know that Charmed still does that to this day, and hopefully for years and years to come, it's just the most magical thing.
Oh, yes. Yes. We talked about how much we love Charmed, but like, how did you discover it? Like, where did the whole like discovery and realization of the show come from?
So I discovered Charmed when I was living in Switzerland, and I was like 8 or 9 years old. I was 9 years old. And it was airing on a Austrian, of all things, on an Austrian network called ORF1. And in Switzerland they had that as an option. You could watch that network. And I remember I started Charmed late. I started Charmed in like season 2/season 3. I didn't start from the very beginning. And I remember it at one point we were zapping through television and something came up and I was like, no, doesn't look cool, whatever. And I kept zapping. And then one day I stopped and said, okay, I'm gonna watch this. And the first episode I ever saw of Charmed was Awakened.
Okay.
Which terrified me. Because I had action figures. I was like, I'm action figures gonna come to life and like try to kill me when I sleep.
Right.
Because that, the little ninja doll was pretty scary. I was like, this is
season 2, episode 12. So right in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the first one I saw. And I remember I got some, minor night. I was 9. I got some minor nightmares from it. My mom was like, that's it. You're never watching that show again. I was like, okay. And what's funny is this Austrian network was a little behind because at that time, I think they were already about to wrap up season 3. And because I really got into it towards like 2000, 2001. So they were about to wrap up season 3 and start season 4. And then in France, they were already airing season 3. And my cousin had also told me about Charmed. She was living in France. And I was like, huh, what? No, I don't know. I've never heard of that show. Until I realized that the one thing I had seen with the scary ninja doll was the same show. I was like, oh, that's the show. And then I started paying attention to it. And what really bugged me is, so I started watching it every night. And what was funny is I would watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch on one network. And then right after that, I would switch to the other network and watch Charmed. So it was a very witchy youth. That and Hocus Pocus were like highlights.
Yes.
I just watched Doug Jones a few weeks ago on a project, something very small, but I got to meet Doug Jones.
Oh, very cool.
Sweetest guy ever.
Oh.
But so yeah, witches were a big part of my youth. And so I started watching Charmed on a regular basis. I think it aired every night at that point because they had already, bought the whole season. And so I was watching, the rest of season 2 into season 3. And then it would come, to Look Who's Barking with a Banshee. And then boom, season 1 would start over again. And I watched the pilot. Oh yeah, it's all hell breaks loose.
Wow.
But I'll tell you why. It all made sense later on.
Okay.
So then boom, season 1, episode 1. I was like, ooh, okay. I was like, their hair is short. They look younger. What's happening? And I figured out, oh, okay, it started over again for the first episode. And then I started finally watching it in order from season 1 through season 3. And at that time, the internet had just started, so I could kind of, like Yahoo search a few things. I could find the episode guide and kind of see the order of things. And I remember seeing that there was one more episode after Look Who's Barking. I was like, why is it not there? Why can't I see it? What does it mean? And I was like, I'm sure it'll come around this next cycle. So for, pretty much 60 days, 3 times 20, 60 days, I was waiting for Look Who's Barking. So the next day I could watch, and I knew the episode starts with 2 of the front doors opening. So I was waiting for it. And again, back to the pilot. I'm like, what the hell? Why can't I? And that was way before anyone downloaded. I was like, why can't I? Why are they not playing the season 3 finale? And there was no season 4. We'll just go right back to season 1. And then the internet came out. That's when they started, I think, and then around that time they announced that Paige Rose was joining. I was like, huh? Did they just recast Prue? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so I started doing, some research and figured out, that Shannon had left the show because her character dies in that last episode. And then Paige is going to join as a new character in season 4. And I was like, okay, well, I still haven't seen the final episode of season 3, so I don't know how she dies. And I was so like dumbstruck on, I'm never going to see this godforsaken episode. And then I found this other Swiss network. Their logo was like a blue dice.
Okay.
And they would show episodes. They would show brand new episodes that you could switch from French to English.
Mm.
And because up until now, I'd only seen Charmed in German, never in English. So my first ever Charmed episode that I saw in English was A Night to Remember.
Wow.
Season 4.
Yeah.
With Paige's past life. The first time I ever heard Holly speak English, the first time I ever heard Alyssa's real voice and Rose's real voice was in that episode.
Oh my
And that
gosh.
was already into season 4. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm missing such a big chunk of what happened between Prue dying and Rose joining, right? And then I would watch the rest of season 4 without ever having seen that godforsaken all hell breaks loose. And I remember only a few years later, a friend of mine in high school in France said, "Oh, there's this website you can download stuff from. You should look if it's available for download." And I was like, "Okay." And I did, and I was able to download it. I was like, I can finally see this episode.
And you're like,
me.
shook.
I was like, what Piper dies and all the blood, and oh my God, it was traumatizing. And I'd never understood why they would never air it. But then, and this is what was kind of messed up with the network, and it was probably for censorship reasons or something. But I had noticed after seeing the same episode I had seen in Germany, in France, because it would also re-air them in France, a lot of the violent stuff in episodes were cut out.
Oh.
So that Austrian network would remove any excess blood, any excess demon scary stuff would be cut out. And I'm like, well, it makes sense because you'd have to cut out everything in that last episode. Because with all the blood and Piper dying, you could not include that. Like they would have to cut all that out. So the episode would make no sense.
No sense.
So that's why I just never aired it.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually a lot of stuff, like, get this, they even cut out in one of the episodes in season 3, they cut out the whole scene of Cole killing the Triad. Yeah. That whole scene was gone. Yeah, because it was too violent.
Oh my.
So there were elements of episodes that I had never seen until I actually got the DVDs. Or until I downloaded the episodes. Yeah.
And I've only been hearing about stuff like this recently. The people that like some of the season 6, like in Valhalla of the Dolls, there was like scenes that they cut out that like you never had that before. You never had these scenes because we've always had them in America. They were just the way they were, and so I never knew that they cut stuff out.
Yeah,
it's
and
crazy.
even in Europe too, like when they would, because the 2-hour episodes had in Europe they would air them with 2 different theme songs and 2 different opening songs, but in the US they would air them as one long continuous piece. Mm-hmm. Where all you had is like you'd have the Charmed logo, like the triquetra, and then the episode would continue.
Yeah.
But in France, Valhalla of the Dolls Part 2 has a song before Paige and Phoebe orb into the front parlor to meet with Leo.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny how they'd have the episodes kind of be a little bit different depending on the markets that they were airing them. Yeah. Because in Europe they would air them as 2 different episodes with a to be continued, and here they air them as one long episode in a 2-hour special. Yeah. But yes, so long answer short, my first ever Charmed episode was Awakened, and I just discovered it sorry. My first episode was Awakened, and I just discovered it haphazardly because it just happened to be on TV, and I was zapping through the networks, and I was like, oh, this looks kind of fun. And I watched it, got terrified from it, and then just fell in love with the scare aspect of the Charmed.
Yeah.
And just the whole, I'm a big fan as a filmmaker, I'm a big fan of atmosphere, right? And of the way things look and feel. And so for me, the mystique of the show, the magic, the way the house looked and felt were such big draw factors for me as a filmmaker and as a fan of storytelling. And of course, the girls and their personalities. And I was always a big fan of Piper. Is just like, it's always, I've always been Team Piper. By the way, who are you? Which one is your favorite? I never asked.
Oh, yes. I'm a Prue person.
Okay.
I love Prue, and I don't. It's funny because like I don't know what it was. I think I just really idolized her and looked up to her, and because of that reason, I think I myself am more of a Piper. Like I'm a Piper character.
Okay.
I'm not like Prue at all, but I always like admired everything about her. And I always felt like protected when she was around. I always felt loved when she was around. So I was just like, that's what it is. And when I lost her, I had a whole grieving situation.
Oh,
I made like a collage, like one of those creepy, like a little cut out but pictures of her all throughout the show. And I cut out like little letters that said Prue. Like,
oh my God,
my little Prue shrine. I think I have it somewhere still.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So yeah.
And you so let me ask you, because I'm just curious about myself here. For myself, how did you first come across Charmed? Like when it first started? Like
I saw every episode on original air date. yeah, I remember just watching. I don't know if it was like a day before or that night, but I saw the commercial for it. It's like Charmed, the new series, and here's like and it had that that deep that voice like. I don't remember what they said
Right, yeah.
exactly, but it was like tonight the sisters Charmed, witches, and I'm like I was like, ooh, this is mysterious and witchy. I like it. And then it had the sibling thing, and I was always really close to my siblings, and so I was very intrigued by the commercial, and I
Yeah.
watched it. And I'm just like, okay, I'm in love with this, and I watched every episode
So you've
since.
been a fan since day one.
Yeah, October
Oh,
7th, 1998. Yes.
love it. I love it. You know, it's funny. This is a total side note, but when I moved here to the US, I got an American phone number. And I don't know if it's still the same thing, but back then, AT&T was like, oh, here are 3 or 4 numbers you can choose from. And the one I chose ended in 98. I was like, well, I got to take that one because it ends in 98, like the year the charm started. My phone number ends in 98.
See, we are motivated by so many crazy things.
We are. And it's funny because it's the little things like this that we don't hurt anyone with this kind of passion, but it just makes us feel good, and it's like this invisible hug that just makes us feel all nice and warm and fuzzy inside, and to know people like you, to know people like Hubert, and I'm sure many other fans who I've never met and who maybe I'll meet one day. It's just such a beautiful experience that we all get to share collectively by having the same shared passion for this show.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the cast and crew know this as well. Like I know for me sometimes when I have people who compliment me on the work that I do, I always get all weird thinking, oh my God, I can't believe that the thing I've done has excited or made someone cry like this. But I can't begin to imagine how these actors must feel after almost 20 years of doing the show, that it still moves people the way that it does. Like it must be such an amazing feeling.
Yeah. So I guess maybe just describe your job a little bit. We kind of hinted at it a lot, but like, what do you do?
So I'm a director in LA, which sounds very cliche. But yes, I'm a director. So I do music videos, I do promos and like commercials. I do narrative form works. I do short films. I'm working on developing a feature film right now. So yes, I'm a freelance filmmaker in the city of Los Angeles.
I know you asked earlier too. I should tell you my favorite part of the house.
Oh yes.
I'm going to say, because I wasn't really sure. I mean, there's lots of places I love. I'm going to say the foyer, just because it's iconic. You get the doors, but you also get the stairs. You get access to the sitting room parlor. You get access to the living room area, and then access to the dining room. And
if I could do something to give back to the charm community, because I know that when I was younger, if I'd never done this, I would have loved for someone to share this kind of stuff. So I hope that fans will get it, find these kinds of things.
I feel like us, the old people who were there, when it was like the big thing.
Yeah,
I think we're kind of like the champions of giving this information to the new people watching, because they don't have it as easily in a lot of respects. So it's like, you don't understand. This is what it was like, and so. Yeah, we're giving back for sure.
One thing I stumbled upon, I don't know, you may have seen it if you were, look up on YouTube, but there was a time a few months ago where 13-year-old me would have probably shit his pants. But someone on YouTube was starting to post all these reels of charm. I don't know if you ever saw those.
I have. The dailies and stuff, yeah.
The dailies. And I was like, oh my God, how did he get his hands on these things? Because unless you work in post, because even if you're like a director, you don't really, a director, you get to see them, but you don't get to keep them. But unless you're like working in post-production for this, you don't get to see that stuff, because that had all the takes, all the bloopers, all the stuff where Holly goes like this.
Yeah.
I was like, it would be mortifying to know this is online, because no one's supposed to see that stuff. And yet the guy was uploading all these things. So I watched a bunch of them saying, I would have died to see this back then, because you really get a sense of how they worked on set.
Yeah.
And of course, it all got taken down because I think people probably told Holly, did you hear about this? But I remember someone had commented on one of the guy's videos saying, how did you get this? And I don't know if you knew this or not, but apparently he was friends with a guy who was doing sound design on the show.
Oh.
And apparently he got them through him, and he just posted them online.
Yeah, there were So crazy. So, and then I don't think I watched them all. I should have, but
I saw a bunch. They at one point he was uploading like one a week.
yeah.
They had the Bear Witch Project. They had Coyote Piper. They had stuff with the Courtship of Wyatt's father. They had stuff from House Call.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and then actually some of them even had deleted scenes.
Yeah.
Some of them had clips that they had shot. They had not made the final cut. So sometimes you actually get to see things that never made the final episode for runtime purposes. So I'm like, oh, what I wouldn't give for all these things. Well, the one thing that's still online right now, I don't know if you saw that one, is the bloopers. There's like a blooper reel. Yeah. So that one's still online, which is really fun to watch. And it's just like, they could have easily given us a blooper reel. It's like, come on, guys.
We
like,
need more special features on these DVDs. We only got the season 8 special features, but if you had them for all of them, oh my gosh, think of all the stuff.
But what I'll do, and I can share this with you as well, I'm gonna try and get my parents to send me those albums at some point, because those have like behind the scenes photos of them shooting at the house.
Oh, very neat.
And those could be some really neat, like, you know, throwback Thursdays or something.
Yeah.
That again, unless you were there, you didn't get to see that stuff. And I know at one point, so the photos I have, if I remember correctly, are from when they shot the Woodstock episode and when they shot the Bad, Bad, Bad World season 6 finale episode. Okay. And you have like the crane in front of the house, you know, when Phoebe gets shot. You have when they dirty down the whole front yard of the house with all like the dead bushes. And
oh my gosh.
All those photos. So there's a lot of cool stuff there.
Yeah, very neat. Yeah, anything you want to send. I mean, I'm never gonna complain because it's all exciting to me. I'm just geek out. I'm like, so, yeah. I
gotta ask you though, did you? Because I noticed the dolls behind you. Did you custom make them, or like those? They look so good.
I don't know if I can get to them. I might have to send you pictures, but they are custom dolls. You can see they're in the All Hell Breaks Loose outfits. Yeah, there's the attic box. I have Paige in her the 5th Halloween outfit.
Oh, yes.
And then up above, I have a Balthazar, I have a Cole, and I have a Leo in there.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, so they're all custom made. And
it's so cool. I had the action figure playset growing up.
Yeah, those are over there. You can see them. I don't know if they're kind of
yes, on the shelf.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so pretty.
Up on top, my P3 sign is there, but it's not lit up, but it's up there.
Oh yes, I see it in front of that like white star.
Yeah.
Is the white star from something from Charmed?
No, those are just there. Those are just nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait,
those are not Charmed. Just a little extra light sometimes.
I have the dragon staff that I got from the auction that they did when the show ended, and then I have the pirate coin.
Okay.
But they're back in France, so I have to find a way to get them over here. And then what else? I have clothes. So It's a Wrap, the store that sells signature wardrobe. Where
it's right there in your neighborhood, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So the tenants back then, when they were still living at the house, they would go there and they'd look for charm wardrobe. And so I have Piper's turtleneck from The Eyes Have It.
Okay. 5. Yeah.
I have Piper's pink long sleeve like shirt from the opening scenes in Love's a Witch.
Okay.
When she's acting, you know, and Phoebe's meditating.
Yes.
I have that one. I have Chris's blue T-shirt from that same episode. I have like 2 or 3 other clothing items, but I have a few items that I would like put them in a frame and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I don't know if you've been there recently, but they have Phoebe's Witches in Tights outfit on display right now.
So actually,
you took the picture.
I did. Yeah. Yes. They always had that and the house. They also had at one point, they had, you know, the chamber that Leo gets frozen into in season 8.
Yes.
They had that at some point on display in the room, and now it's gone. And then, and this is where I'm like, if I had the money, they used to have 2 It's a Wrap stores. And the other one was over on Robertson in West Hollywood. And they had the P3 sign above the exit door. And it was lit up. And after they closed the store, I'm like,
what happened to it?
Where is it? Can I put a price tag on it? Can I get it? Like,
it's probably huge too.
It's big, yeah. I remember looking at photos of myself standing next to it back on the set. It's probably as big as like if my head is as big as the P. So it's a big sign.
Yeah.
But they had multiple. Because they had the one that was for outside, and they had the one inside above the stage, and they probably had at least 2 or 3 replicas of that in case one of them broke or something.
Yeah.
But that P3 sign is so iconic.
It is.
And you know about this, right? You know the entrance to P3, which is like a side door of their old soundstage building in Canoga Park.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's
So- You didn't notice?
no.
Yeah.
I just remember the industrial zone. I just remember the
Yeah.
name of it.
Yeah, that was the side of the soundstage. So
Very fun.
the Canoga Park Studios, I forget their name, something with an R. They were that's where they shot the MASH TV show and some other smaller TV shows, along with Charmed. And the sound isolation was really, really bad. Whenever Charmed was shooting something that was outside, it was usually always one of the side streets of that studio. So oftentimes, like, you know, the police, the outside of the police station, the outside of the hospital, the outside of the Bay Mirror until they moved to Paramount was always the same building with those black windows and those like little lines on the side, like a dark mustardy kind of a color. That was the facade of their studio building.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
The radio station that Leo walks into to give, you know, to influence the Dishwalla band manager to go to the street.
Carlson.
That was the lobby of their studio.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah.
Look at that. Behind the scenes information.
What's really fun, and I took Hubert there when he came, the only way you can still tell where that studio used to be is because right across from where the studio was, it was a cul-de-sac. On one side, you had the entrance to the studio lot with all the sound stages, and across from it was the LADWP water and power plant. Which, remember, in multiple episodes, you would see those like power lines, those like power, like a big grid of power lines, right? You can't get rid of that, no matter what you build. So today, if you go up to Canoga Park, and I know the address, you can pretty much walk and park and stand where the girls shot countless, and I mean countless scenes that took place outside in San Francisco.
Wow.
Yeah. And the power line is visible in multiple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
One that I can recall off the top of my head is when Piper tries to, get Wyatt back from the dragon.
Yeah, forget me not. I was thinking that's the first thing that came to my head. Yeah.
It's parked on the power lines and you come down the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right across from their studio. And if you were facing the studio, you actually see a lot too in the episode My Three Witches, when Phoebe studio recording, you see her in the limo and you have all the fans coming after her. All that's meant to be the studio of where she tapes her show is the actual studio where they shot Charmed for 6 years.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So
Cool.
I have a lot of fun little anecdotes like that of things that I pieced together like a detective over the years, because I was just like such a
super sleuth.
It was a mix of being a fan of the show, but also just a fan of movie magic, right?
Yeah.
And how can they fool us into believing that it's XYZ, right? So yeah.
Amazing.
I just want to say thank you for having me on. Like, I did not expect to get to share this story, but I love that you were willing to, hear me blabber about the whole experience. And I love your energy. And please, please, please hit me up when you come to LA, because I definitely
For sure. Oh yes, I will. I get there usually once or twice a year, so I'll definitely be back.
Nice.
This was such a treat. Thank you for all of this. It was amazing.
You're so very welcome. It was my pleasure, and I hope the Charmed fans get a kick out of it. And yeah, I will send you the Dropbox link in the email that you sent the Zoom link to.
Mm-hmm.
And then if there's any other photos you want, let me know, and I'll dig through my folder and see what else I can send you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
How do you want us to?
Well, first, tell people where they can follow you and find you.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter. My handle is @NicholasWendell, NicolasWendl. But I'm sure I'll probably link that in there as well. So yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter. The handle is @NicholasWendell. You'll see a lot of filmmaking stuff. I actually posted a few like Charmed set photos like 4, 5, 6 years ago as like a throwback Thursday. But now my posting is more related to, the work I do as a filmmaker. But I'll definitely share all the it airs, and maybe it'll even prompt me to share a few more.
Cool. You can follow this podcast, Words of the Witches, pretty much everywhere. Words of Witches if you're on Twitter. We're on YouTube too if you're watching this on YouTube. Yay, awesome, cool.
So YouTube.
So I guess we'll end with your destiny still awaits. That's my finish every time. So
and I shall add to this, blessed be.
Thank you.
Kevin, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.